Hey, it's Lyndon again, and welcome back to our second Photoshop tutorial. We are going to actually Photoshop an image today, which is really cool. If you look at my screen, you'll see that I definitely practiced it to make sure that it is viable, but I guess we'll open this up, and this is what we're going to be attempting to do. It's pretty easy, and it can look better or worse depending on how much time you want to put into it. So if you end up putting in a lot of time, it's going to look awesome. If you end up putting in a little bit of time, it's still going to look pretty awesome. And we're going to work on it in a way that you can change things later on. So you'll see there's chunks of grass in here, and there's little shadows and stuff that we're making. And so yeah, all of this stuff is going to be something we're going to put together today. So I hope it ends up being very rewarding for you. So I'm going to include all of the images that we'll be using. I guess the first thing that I want to talk about is, oh yeah, I'm going to not put music in this because I'm listening to my own music, and I feel like you'd probably want to listen to your own as well. So this video will be sans music so that you can listen to whatever you want. Yes, so I took all of these pictures. Oh my god. Hope I got nothing scandalous. Just kidding. So I believe that when I started photoshopping, I would pull pictures from the internet and I'd be like, oh, I'm just going to put these things together. And it ended up being pretty tough. So in this case, I took all of the pictures that we're going to be using, and I think that's actually really important, and it'll make your job a whole lot easier in the end. And so you'll see this folder. One day I went and I took pictures of grass, and they were at all of the wrong angles. And so when I went to try to do things and distort them, then our Photoshop image that we're going to make just looked really bad. So I went another day and I took a few more pictures knowing exactly what I needed. And then I actually narrowed that down to only 2. So yeah, if you're ever somewhere and you have an idea of something you want to do, I totally recommend doing it 100% yourself. Use only the things that you have and go out and take your own pictures because it'll be pretty awesome. And I'll actually probably bring up a little example of why, if you have a camera, it's better than a smartphone. So again, like last time, I'm going to open up the picture so that it's all of the exact dimensions that we want, and then I'm just going to drag in our this other picture so that it pops in. So this one was taken with a smartphone camera, and which is fine. If you have that, you can totally use that. But if you have an actual camera around, not only are the colors different, but as I zoom in here, there we go. Okay, so just everywhere on this picture taken with the actual camera, you'll notice that the edges are way more defined than this one, where it's a little bit more gray and a little bit sloppier. And the reason why this is pretty important is because when it comes to using all of these tools that are like automated selections, these colors blend in a lot more, and Photoshop's going to have a harder time. I'm just going to make sure I unlock this. Photoshop is going to have a harder time figuring out what you're trying to select with all of your different things. So it's just easier to use a really good photo. But again, if you have to use a smartphone photo, then that is totally fine. So this whole tutorial is actually going to be about masks and about masking things. And the cool thing about masks is that it's a way to tweak the image and change it up without destroying any of it. And so if I go into here, and I'm actually going to use my brush tool and click on this layer, and so it'll allow me to draw on things, and anywhere that I'm drawing over here, if I draw this entire thing, this is not what we're doing, but this is just a quick example. If I draw all of this, then boop, 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 when I unclick this quick mask thing, or I press Q, just Q on the keyboard, it turns in this selection, and then you can click mask over here, and you'll notice all of that becomes invisible. But if I wanted to keep tweaking it, I have my mask clicked on over. Actually, maybe I should move this panel for you guys. I don't know if you can see it very well. Let's put it down here and make that minimized. Cool. Okay, so my mask is down here, and this is when I'm editing the image. So if I have my brush tool and I have the image clicked, then it's going to draw black and white on the brush. But if I have the mask clicked and I'm using black to draw, it'll actually edit that mask, and you can press X or the little reverse thing to switch them, and then it'll do the opposite. It'll get rid of the transparency, I guess. So that's going to be a like hugely key part of this entire thing, is that you can tweak your image and you can customize your selection and do all of these things, and you can do it really efficiently and really effectively. And like you can see the changes and results in real time. So I will, if you right click, you can delete the layer mask. And so, yeah, what we're going to do to start out with is we are going to, let me just change this, make this a bit bigger. We're going to click on that quick mask thing, and if you don't have black and white selected, I think it does have to be black and white. Otherwise it does things, yeah, it does things in like grayscale and stuff. And that might be a little bit weird. It might change your transparency. So this is just like transparent, not transparent. So black is going to be whatever you're drawing on is going to be transparent. And yeah, we're going to select all of the road. We're going to avoid the shadows because that'll just make it look better in the end if we have shadows over top of our grass. Yes. And so anyway, let's get to it. So some quick tips. You can undo your thing. You can also just go back over it with white if you want to. If you use a large brush, I don't really recommend that yet. I think you should go with a smaller brush, and you should get all of these loose edges, get a rough estimate of the edges, and then once you have it like a whole outline, just like coloring in like a picture, then you can go in with a bigger brush and kind of clean that up. So that's what I'm going to do. And pay attention to your hardness. So you should probably do like 100% hardness on these edges here. And we're going to go and do another thing a little bit later and fix that up too. So just for now, do all of your hardness. Try to get these things. Make sure you don't paint this out, and get right up to this. Yeah, so try to get right up to that light post and everything. The more work that you do now, the more you're going to see it later on. You're going to be like, okay, it was totally worth doing those things. And of course, you can tweak it later on too, but you may as well just take care of it right now while we're doing this. And yeah, so I'm going to speed up this part, and then you can pause the video if you want to take a lot of time doing it. And if you don't want to spend too much time doing it, then we'll go through it really quickly. I'm not going to make you watch me do this the entire time. So I'm going to get started on it, and I will see you in the future. Just so that you have a rough estimate of how long this should take you, I spend as much time as I want. So I mean, it took me like a few hours to do the test Photoshop because I was trying a lot of different things. But if you want to be really picky about it, then you can take a long time. And if you don't want to, then you don't have to. The other thing is when you're dragging and when you stop at a place, you can hold Shift and then click, and it'll do a straight line to whatever you're doing. You can also just do it, you can click down and it'll do that. So for these edges right here, it just makes that a whole lot easier, and it'll speed up your time. You can even do it really rough by just doing shift clicks if you want to, and then clean it up later. But again, like I mentioned, that's not the best way of doing it. So just a little tip for you. And then let's go back to the future. We're back in. Another quick thing, if you hold Alt and then hold the right click, you can change your brush size by moving your mouse left and right, and that'll just kind of tweak it. If you do up and down, it changes your hardness settings. So be careful because you can change both at the same time accidentally. But anyway, it's just a quick way. And then remember, holding space takes out your hand tool, and that'll let you move around. And then holding Alt in your scroll wheel will let you zoom around. So, sorry. These are all motions that I can, when I'm editing, I can go back and be like, hey, look, I did something. Remember to save your work. So immediately as you start this, you probably want to go to File and then Save As, and save it as whatever you're doing, because mine is acting really funky right now, and that's not awesome. And it should save all of your masking progress as you go through. So if you end up saving it and then you come back in, you'll see all of your red area still in effect. So yeah, just save as, name your file, whatever, and then if you just click save, I think it will save over the photo, like the original photo. So you don't really want to do that. You want to click save as, name it, do your PSD thing, and then you can just hit Control S throughout, and it'll save it to that file the entire time. I might have to restart this. So you'll live and you'll learn. Okay, keep doing your thing. Ah, look, confirmed. All my red stuff is still there. I managed to save it. I'm not sure what to do with this right now. I would leave this alone, and then we're going to worry about that road later. So there's going to be a direct line right up here at the top, and then hold shift and it'll just drag it straight across, and we'll call that our like horizon line, and that'll be pretty good. This part, pretty funky with all of these different shadows. One of our steps later on is kind of going to be about fixing these little bits, and so you don't have to worry about that right now. Just do a rough outline, and then we'll actually go in and tweak that later on. So don't get too picky with that. Another reminder, we're just getting the street here, so make sure that you're not taking up any of the sidewalk, because it's going to make it look a lot better if we keep that sidewalk in there. Boom. Mine's all filled in, and yeah, we have these shadows over here. I guess I could do a little bit better job in this area. One of the things I actually really love about Photoshop is, and I know that people have different opinions, but I really like the process. I think it's super soothing and just relaxing, and so I think that's why I kind of encourage you to take your time. Is maybe you don't want to because you're like, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I got into it because I just enjoy the process of like figuring something out. And I didn't have great teachers off the bat. I learned a lot on my own, and so that's why I'm kind of really stressing working in a way that's not destructive, because I did not used to do that. You can brute force your way through like any Photoshop project that you have, but it's not gonna be good. It's not a great idea, because then you just end up destroying all of your stuff and you can't go back and keep working on it. Okay, so we got that figured out. Yeah, and we'll just make sure you save that. Remember, Control S to do that bad boy. So next up, what we're going to do is, this is a really defined edge, and when we put our grass in, it's going to look extremely flat. There'll be a dividing line, and yeah, so when you have grass and it's all sticking up and you're doing all these shadows and stuff, that's what makes it look really real, is when you have all of those edges. So what we're going to do is, if we click on our brushes here, and you might have to do, yeah, so if you click in this little settings button and click on legacy brushes, and that will pop up another little thing. It might send a little warning, hey, do you want to do this? And just click yes. From what I could tell, I've downloaded some of my own brushes, so you might not have these folders, but in the general, I couldn't find something that does what I want it to do. So in legacy, and then we go down to the faux finish, and we keep on going down to the very bottom of that, which there are a lot of them. We're going to use the like veining feather 2 brush, and so what that does is it gives us this little guy, which is neat. And so if we do this, well, that's not exactly what we're wanting, but what we are wanting is going to happen in a moment. Also, I'm using white, so if I do red, it would look like this. This does not look realistic. This doesn't look like grass, so we're going to do another thing on top of that. If we have this, and then you go up here to this little icon, brush settings, and I hope that you can see it. If not, maybe I'll drag it down to the bottom to make sure that you can see it. This is what our little brush settings icon looks like. So when you click on that, you have all of these different options. What we are looking for is shape dynamics, and you can see in here, if you do a little thing, you'll see that as you're going to draw, it's going to change the size of your brush. And so just get that to somewhere that you might like. We'll say 25%. And we are going to do probably scattering. Let's try out scattering. So click the check mark, click on that, and then when you see that it'll scatter this one a little bit, 25%, that looks good. We need another one. Oh no, shape dynamics, and it'll the angle jitter, and that'll kind of make them move and rotate a little bit. And so get that to someplace that you like as well. And you can mess around with any of these settings, but yeah, flipping the X jitter right here, that's going to be perfect. So that'll, and then we can tweak our angle a little bit. Maybe we don't even want any angle. That should be good. Don't actually know what these other ones are doing. Roundness, probably keep that as it is. And let's flip both of them. Let's flip the X and Y to get some interesting stuff going on here. Count jitter, no, probably don't want that. The count jitter, what does that do? I'm just guessing as you go through, it'll just change up the count. I mean, maybe we'll turn the count to like 2. I'm not a huge fan, so I'm probably going to change the like count and put that back down because I just think it was getting to be too much. And then I might actually change my angle jitter a bit more to make sure that I'm getting more interesting shapes out of it. So feel free to tweak with those settings and do whatever you think looks best. Okay, so if we go back in here and you continue to draw, you'll now see that it does this little thing, which is way cooler. That kind of looks like grass sticking up, doing its whole thing. And yeah, so whenever we mask this and turn it into like a transparent bit, then some of our image will show up right there, and it'll be super refined, and you didn't need like crazy brush skills to do that, and it'll look like tiny little blades of grass. Whoa! So yeah, so next up we are just going to do that all around where it's appropriate. So this is not an appropriate space to do that because that doesn't make any sense. You're not going to have grass that's coming up and over that ledge, so you'll do it on the sides here, and you'll do it maybe a little bit over here. Boop, but you're not going to do it through there, and use your own judgment. And then this is what's going to fix up all of these other spaces in the shadows. So you can still change your brush size, and then you can just go back and forth a lot, and it'll give a little bit more nuance to that and fix up those shadows for you. Just realized I'm going too far. Whoopsies. Be careful. This whole thing right here is actually sidewalk. So yep, Control S to save just in case, and that's it. I'm going to speed this up for me, and you're going to go through and do that, and do it to whatever you're liking. Oh, one last thing. Don't speed up yet. Make sure as you go through here, so we're going to do like a larger size up front because it's closer perspective, and then as you get to a point, and really just pick one. This is not the size you should use, it's just a size. But when you get to like here, you're going to take that size down just a little bit. And I mean, maybe use like 15 and then you go down to this. But as you go down and you change up the perspective and it's shifting, so you can get to there and then you go a bit more. And then when you get all the way over here, you're going to think that like, I don't know, what are we using? 9. You're going to think this is going to do nothing, but it is going to make like a substantial difference. So make sure you do this. Don't just leave that edge and be like, it's the horizon, I'm going to not bother. All of these little details, just mentally, if someone looks at the image, they're going to change the way that they perceive everything. So yep, I'm going to let you do that, and now I'll speed everything up. Make sure you're trying to match up your perspective, whatever you chose to do. So when you get back to the other side, just try to line up when you're like, hey, I switched something over here. Try to line that up with the other side so that it stays really consistent. Okay, I think I finished up. I didn't do like a crazy job. Some of this it should look fine. Like there's some gray there, whatever. This shadow isn't perfect, but again, it should be okay in the end. And I think we are good to keep on going. I guess I could have taken care of that a bit more, but oops. Maybe I'll just do that. Do I keep doing this? I think I do. I think the last time I was like, I'm done. And then I was like, oh, maybe I'm not done. Let me do this real quick. Anyway. Okay, so we have that. I may have made a mistake. I should have duplicated this layer. Oh, nuts. Okay, good. I didn't lose anything. Yeah, be careful. Cool. This one I actually want to lock, and then I want to go back into here. Okay, now I got all that. We should have done that beforehand, and thankfully it didn't mess any of this up because that would have been super, super sucky. Cool, now I'll save that. That's where we're at. Now if you click this, it turns it into a selection, and then you're going to hit mask, and then it should work out pretty well. You can make this background invisible, and that's what we have. Next up on our agenda, save again just because I'm paranoid. So we got that, and it's looking pretty funky. That looks a lot like grass to my eyes, at least. So next thing what we're going to do is, and I have the files included for you guys, so we're going to take all of our grass, and we're just going to drag it in. So we'll drag in this one, make it a bit small. Don't really have to resize it yet, but this is going to be for the middle, and so I might just resize it to what I feel is appropriate for this depth and stuff. So we'll do that, and oopsies. Well, I hit enter, but nothing happened. So when you resize it, you got to hit that check mark up there, or you have to hit enter, and it didn't appreciate that I hit enter apparently. And this little icon right here actually means it's a smart object, so we should be able to resize it and scale it, and it won't lose any of its resolution until we hit rasterize, which we're not going to do. But just so you know, for whatever you're working on, smart objects are pretty cool, so it shouldn't lose quality as you like scale it up and down. Side grass. So we're going to put this side grass into here. And again, we're just kind of putting it in a way. And then we're going to use the same thing. So you can hold Alt and drag it, and it'll actually duplicate it. Or you could duplicate the layer. But I'm going to hold Alt and drag. I'm going to go up here to Edit. Go to transform, and then I'm going to flip horizontal, and that becomes our side grass for each side. Neato. And then this is going to be the same thing. We're actually going to use this twice because I'm lazy, and then we'll just rescale it a little bit. And I'm not lazy. This ended up being the best picture of the grass that I had. And you'll want to name this. I would go through and name all of these things. So middle grass, top, middle grass, bottom, side grass, right, and side grass, left. And then if you would like to, you can highlight all of them. So click on the top one, and you can hold shift and then click on the bottom one. That'll select multiple, or you can select, you can hold control, and that'll select not the entire column, but it'll just select and deselect things that you want to do, so you can skip ones. Anyway, so I'm going to select all of those, right click, and I'm going to group from layers, and I'm going to call all of that my grass. And I'm going to put the city on the top of that. That's where we're at. It's something. Right now, you actually have something going on. It's not perfect, but we're not perfect. So, yeah, and there's a dozen different ways that you could do this. You could crop them, not like this, but if you wanted to, you could mask them, and you could crop them, and you could do different hardness things, and you could use your clone tools, your stamp tools if you wanted to, but I don't think any of that is the best way to do it. We're actually going to do a slightly lazy way, and also just the better way of doing that. Because if you notice, I mean, I did a lot of tests because I was like, maybe we'll talk about the healing tools and all of those things, but for the most part, they didn't work for what we're trying to do. And my method that I like to use, and it might be other people's method too, I don't know, is continuing to use the quick mask. Oh my gosh. It's continuing to use the quick mask tool, which is Neato Burrito. So let's start with our left side grass. And if we could climb that, and then we're going to use our brush. Oh, go back up here. We're going to make sure we change that back basically to just the default. We'll do hard round even though we're going to make it soft. And I'm going to turn it up to a pretty large brush. And so we're not going to keep it really hard, but if you turn the hardness down to maybe like 30, you don't want to do it all the way. And then we'll go through here, and let's make this invisible just so that we get all of it. We're going to mask away all of this bad boy. Cool. That's basically all of it. And maybe we shouldn't have done this one. Anyway, click that. You got that? Boom. Mask it. And then that is what it looks like. And it kind of looks like it blends in pretty well. This can be bigger. Also, it doesn't take away, this is a kind of an important thing. We didn't have to rasterize the layers, so then if we scale it back up, then it looks pretty high quality still. And if you do that, maybe now's even the better time to, like, you could delete this and you could be really happy with how you did this one, and then do the same exact thing, drag it back over, and you'll just rename it later on, flip horizontal, and we're like, hey, cool, now we got both sides of grass already. That was pretty fast. I might lock this layer so I don't move it around or anything like that. Yeah, so that's what that's doing, and I'll rename this to side grass right because I messed it up. And then we got this bad boy, same deal. We're gonna hit Q or just click on this little quick masky thing, and then hit your B button for your brush, and then you can start brushing it away. Again, hiding that. And this one's a bit bigger, which was my bad. Oh gosh. Don't do 5,000, that's insane. Do this, boop, 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 boop. And pretty rough job, but the really cool thing about all of this is that if we go back in, then we can use our brush. And remember, if you have that mask selected, you can fix things, you can tweak things. If you're like, wow, I kind of noticed there's a repeating pattern over here, you can try to edit it and customize it. Yeah, so there's just tons of different things you can do. So I might speed this up, and I think you should just play with it and toy with it. The side grass over there, it looks a bit off in color, and we're going to fix that in like a really super easy way. Not even, you can use the color replace tool, and it's a really good time to use that, but there is also just a better way to do it, so we're going to do it a different way. Anyway, so yeah, go through, mask it up, tweak it. We'll fix that in the background also in a bit. And then I'll come back to you, see where we're at. Okay, let's come back in here. I don't know if you want to, but this is where we're at. I don't know why this is selected. Control D, deselect whatever I had selected. Yeah, okay, so we have something. It's not bad, and again, you could go through this for ages, and you could tweak it, and you could keep changing things, and I will let you do that if you want to, because if you're like, I really want to post this and show people what I did, I'm giving you all the tools that you need to take hours to do this thing. Literally, you could tweak all of it with just what you're like knowing. We're not done yet, just so you know, but just saying those types of things. So, things to make it better. We got the side grass over here, and again, it's the wrong color. So if you go up to adjustments, and there's a lot of different ways you could do this. You could click this down here and also click whatever you're looking for. Might be easier, but adjustments is up in that little panel. And we will change the hue and saturation. This is going to change it for everything going down. So if I made that invisible and I was over here, and I tweaked all of this and I really saturated it, clearly it's affecting everything that is below it. So if you right click on hue and saturation, you're going to create a clipping mask. And what this means is that it is only affecting the layer that is directly below it. And you can stack them. You can create more and more clipping masks, and there's interesting things you can do with this, like that text tool we talked about, where you could get like the sky, and your text has the texture of the sky really quickly and easily. So yeah, you create the clipping mask, and then you can go in your like properties, it shows it. If you don't see that, if you double click on this, it'll pop up. It should at least. And yeah, so we're going to change, maybe not the saturation, maybe a little bit of both, a little bit of hue, a little bit of saturation, and tweak it until you get that matching green. Yeah, I use the color replacement tool because you can kind of choose colors that you're wanting to make more green or more brown, but this I found was a little bit more effective at just, it was simple and it was easy and it got me to where I wanted to be. So I'm at 23 here. I noticed earlier that 20 looked pretty good. Every little number counts. So I might just get it to like, oh yeah, basically the hue looks best at 0. 2 versus like 0. 1. Maybe I'll keep it at 1. And yeah, I don't know. It's not bad. You can also change the lightness or whatever. That's not going to be super helpful. And if you think that there are better ways to do this, you could also, we could throw on a brightness and contrast, and then we can also create a clipping mask there. And again, it'll now tweak both of that, and you can hide it or whatever, see what things are looking at. Maybe that's not the worst idea, is to throw a little bit of, a little bit more contrasty. Yep, and then we'll do that, and if you shift click or do your like control click to select both of them, you can still hold alt from here and you can duplicate them and then create clipping mask again, and that suddenly did it on our right side as well. Another thing we can do, this is like little things, it's called ambient occlusion, and like, well, I don't know, they use that in video games and it's to simulate shadows to make it look real, because whenever there's a space between two things, then there's a shadow in between my two hands, and it's not a like super detailed shadow, it's just enough that you're like, hey, there's a space, there's a gap between there. So I'm going to group these as more things, and this is, what is this? Side right, just because I want to be able to, I don't want this to get too cluttered in here. Inside. Yeah. Cool. So that immediately just cleaned things right up, which is awesome. You should keep this very clean down there. New layer, and we're going to put it right behind this one. We're going to take our brush, and we are going to, selecting black, we're putting it right behind this one for now, but just go through all of your blades of grass and create a black outline. It's not going to make a whole lot of sense immediately, but it'll make sense in a moment. Shoop, shoop, all of it, all of it, all of it. Yeah, keep it going. This is like a very, you don't need to, it doesn't need to be pretty because you're not going to see it. Okay, so you got that going on, and then you're going to, again, we're over here, hold Alt and drag your mask over to that layer, and it will create the same mask as the grass. And then we actually want this to be behind the grass, so we're going to put it behind, and did it do what I wanted it to do? I don't think so. Okay, not really. Do we want it on top? Top doesn't look bad. Yeah, let's leave it on top. That looks good. Maybe don't drag it behind grass. My other idea was going to be, if we wanted it behind, we could double click this and we could probably shift the edge in the opposite direction, and that would give it a little bit more black to show, but instead we'll just keep it on top. There you go. Now you have some like shading on all of this stuff that shows that there's a gap between the grass and between that cement, and it goes all the way around, quick, easy, and it like ups the look of all of this by quite a bit. I think it makes it look way better because even though the sun is shining right down on it, and I mean, you can get more picky about where you have it. You can always, because of the nature of this layer, you can actually just erase it if you want to. You don't even have to tweak the mask mask, or you could tweak the mask, and that could be a thing too. But you could get rid of this stuff if you're like, hey, this is a little bit unrealistic. Then you could pick and choose your battles. I'm going to leave it like that. And we continue. Sorry. I don't know actually how long this is going to go. If you are worried about the perspective of this stuff, and I don't know, maybe this one doesn't look great or something, you can hold shift and adjust these so that you could make it like smaller, and hold shift to make it longer. That's going to do some things to your actual grass, which is fine. It's low enough quality at this point that you don't really need to worry about that. So that's an option. I mean, that could make it, that looks a little bit more flat and looks a little bit better. So you could do things like that. You could keep duplicating grass. You could do this, and you could just hold it, make a whole nother layer, and then do that. Again, tweak things to your desire. Now we just need to go in and do this final little bit. So I actually used the side grass for this area, and we'll just, take this and we'll drag it up out of our grassy knoll. Right click, and I'm going to delete this layer mask, and then I'm going to drag that above our little thing. Looks funky. What did I do with this? Actually, I think I put it above. I think it's all the way at the top. And then I shrunk it down. I'm going to drag it over here, do a little dance. And I rotated it to kind of match the, again, the perspective of this. Okay, so we've got that, and it looks fine. It just, I don't know. I don't even know if it needs to be rotated, but, I should probably rotate it this way. Sure, let's do that. Make that invisible, hit Q, and then begin to select your area down here, and be pretty picky about it. You can do this really quickly or whatever, and again, we're doing it in a way that you can always customize it later. Not gonna be crazy, and don't know if we'll need to do the like grassy details in the back, because now that would be like, you couldn't even see that with a human eye. Doop doop. Oh, getting messages down there. Okay, so we've got that, and what do we got here? So if we do that and we actually hit the, make that a selection and hit the mask button, it doesn't do what you want it to do, right? You're like, okay, that's not what I expected. But if you have your mask clicked on over here, you can go over here and you can click invert, and then it'll reverse your selection. So this is a part of a whole other thing that I was wanting to mention at some point, where at some point it's way more difficult to select the outer area and only select this. So instead I select the inner area, and then I just end up inverting. And when I turn this into a selection, you can do Control-Shift-I, and that'll actually, you'll notice that there should be a, did that do it? It should have done it. I don't know, let's see. Yeah, Control-Shift-I will invert it also, but instead, and we'll just keep on doing things. I'll do it this way because I like this way. I think it's really nice and easy. And then instead of selecting your mask, if you select your grass in here and then you use your move tool, it doesn't do what I want it to do. Oh, you can unlink them. That's what it is. Hit that little link. Sorry. I'm supposed to be a master at this, right? And then if you select your picture, you can actually move it inside of your mask, and you can tweak it that way. Phew, thought I didn't know something for a second. That would have been bonkers. How can I teach something I don't know? I don't know. This bit's a bit random. It's really just to add a little bit more nuance to it, and you could probably go crazy. Not go crazy, but hold shift and just drag that, because we're not really worried about losing detail back here. Of course, you should be worried about that. You can go in and keep tweaking it, but from a distance, that's looking not too bad at all. And again, tweak your mask. Do whatever you want over here. Make sure you get that fine line. This is the horizon, so you want to leave maybe a little bit of space. And you can be really picky, and you can go in with all of these things. Bang, bingo, bango, boingo. And that's what we got. Okay, I think that's everything. Hit save. Cool. So that's our Photoshop tutorial. There's more you can do with it. Keep tweaking it. Do whatever you want. But that is like a bunch of things. Remember those masks. Remember all of your little details, and remember that you can use brushes to do really creative things with that mask instead of trying to do individual blades of grass with everything. We created a little bit of nuance with that bad boy. And if you want to save this and you do whatever you do and you want to share it with people, you go to Save As, and Cloud Documents is on your like Adobe suite, but I'm going to keep it on the computer. You might think that you want to save it as a JPEG because you like saving things as JPEGs, but, and I don't know if this changed in recent years, but JPEGs don't actually support transparency, and we kind of have transparency going on in these sections because of the way that we erased all of it. And when I used to share to Facebook, Facebook didn't used to handle transparency, but it must have changed. I think it changed. Anyway, save as. I would save it as a PNG down here, which supports transparency, and it'll look really awesome, and then you can share it to whatever you want, and that's it. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned a lot. I hope that this isn't too long. I'm not actually sure how long I've been recording for, but I think it may have been a short amount of time. And I will see you guys later. Bye.